I was speaking with someone earlier and I was asked, how do you actually stop stressing? And I had to stop and think about it because I could, of course, give like a clinical explanation. That wasn't what was really being asked. Yeah, deep breathing has its place, and normalizing and mindfulness, all of it has its place. But this was a Christian asking me as another Christian, how can I actually stop stressing? Well, what does God say about stress and anxiety? In Philippians 4 and 6, he says, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your request be made known unto God. Goes on to tell us in Matthew 6 and 27. And who of you, by being worried, can add a single hour to his life? A little further down, 34th verse of Matthew. He says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. We've got assurance with God. You know why we don't have to worry? Also in Matthew at the 19th chapter, 26th verse, Jesus looked at them, just like he's looking at you and me right now. Jesus looked at them and said, with men, this is impossible. Not being able to stop worrying is impossible for the world. But with God, all things are possible. So I'm going to give you 4, let's count them, 4 what I believe to be godly tips on how each of us can stop worrying. Number 1, start focusing more on God, which will leave a lot less time, idle time, to think about worldly stuff, stressors. Make a shift. If my time is spent worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow or how I'm going to do this or that, I'm going to get into the Word. I am going to listen to godly podcasts. I'm going to put on some worship music. I'm going to ride up and down the highway listening to Joel Osteen encourage me in the Lord. Number 2, we need to remind ourselves of who is actually in control. Oftentimes, we are worrying or stressed because we feel out of control. Come here. And that's because we want to be in control. We want to have all the answers. We want to fix everything. We want to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And we want to be able to sit back and know, okay, I've got this. I've considered all of the contingencies and I've allowed for them. It's covered. That's not how life works. God is in control, and things will happen that are outside of our control. But He has the answer, and He is your answer, and He's my answer. Number 3, we need to take care of those things that we do have control over. In that way, we can avoid issues. pay my bills and I pay them on time. I don't have to worry about late fees or something being cut off. If I am treating others the way I want to be treated, then at least I am covered. If there is conflict, I did all that I could do. I want to forgive others so that I am not carrying that burden around of unforgiveness, which really just whittles away at our self-confidence. It whittles away at our peace. I want to try to do what's right. And then I want to be as prepared as possible. If I have big dinner planned and people are coming over, I don't want to wait until an hour before someone starts ringing the doorbell to start putting things together. I want to prepare. If it's an assignment at work, if it's something I'm doing in the community, if it is just taking care of this body that God has given me, I want to be prepared. And then number 4, I want to cut stress and worry off before it takes a hold. You know what I'm talking about. In those beginning moments when just have a thought that something might not go right. Well, if I follow that thought, if I allow that thought to lead me down that negative rabbit hole, I'm going to end up sitting in that hole, all jacked up, unable to focus on anything else. But if I can cut that off, everything might not work out, but I'm not going to go there. I refuse to. And how do I stop? How do I stop myself from going there? How can you stop yourself from going there? I'm so glad you asked. It takes consistently stopping those thoughts. I'm not going to think about that. Pulling down those imaginations. I'm not going there. I am going to think positively. Everything's going to work out. I've done all that I can do. The rest is in God's hands. I am going to keep scripture before me. I am going to pray consistently. Now, is it easier said than done? Of course it is. Of course it is. But as with anything, with consistent repetition and practice, this can become part of our default, part of who we are. It can become like second nature. But we have to do it consistently. When we're tempted to stress, it is so important for us to pray, God, help me not to give in to this way of thinking, because there is nothing that will benefit me by holding on to this and falling for this and leaning into this. Nothing that can benefit me. Remind me, God, that you have not given me a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Oh my God, we've talked a lot about Matthew, but Matthew 11:28 through 29 says, "Come unto me, all ye," that's you and me, "all ye that labor and are heavy laden." I know you feel it. I know you feel it. I feel it sometimes when it's like, God, I can't take any more. He says, come unto me and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and lean. And I was going to say lean, but lean works too. And learn of me. Lean on him. For I am meek and lowly in heart. And ye, you and me, shall find rest unto your souls. I'm going to tell you something, and then I'm done. I'm going to tell you something, and then I'm done. When God gives us his rest, that'll block that stress. And he gives freely. But are we accepting it? Are we receiving it? I'm hoping that from this day forward, you and me, we're going to do something different. Because it is not God's best for us to be stressed out, worried, walking around like we don't know what to do, like we don't know who we are or whose we are. Enough is enough. Let's do better.